Here we have an episode with Angel that I did like a long time ago, another very, very long one. Her volume was not good and I didn't really know how to adjust it at the time. I do now. And I another one that I just rediscovered that I didn't release, so I can adjust it now. And now that I have the skills, I can do it now. So everyone enjoy this one with Angel. Welcome to another episode of DD on the Spot. As always, I'm your host, Ryan Johnson. And before I get to our guests here today, I'd like to remind everyone that if you enjoy this content, to please give a like and subscribe down below. I'd greatly appreciate it. We have Angel Starr on the podcast. She's an IFBB pro coming to us all the way from Oregon, but most importantly, she's our current guest. Angel, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So before we get started with your journey, I always got to ask, what is the weather like in Oregon today?
The weather was decent, actually. It was above 40, which was good, and it's not raining, so that's also a record.
Yeah, we just got done with it being about 5 degrees up here in Minnesota, so it's like it's gonna be, I think it's gonna be in the mid 30s next week. So that's very rare. So we're getting very excited about that. But yeah, before I really depress everyone with our winter woes, why don't you give us a little bit of a backstory of what inspired and what motivated you to get in shape and how that led to you being an IFBB pro?
Oh, you got some time, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, well, it's a very long story,
Yeah, we
and
got all the
in
time
depth,
in the
but
world.
okay, great. So, the long and the short of it, before I get into it, is basically I did it by accident as far as really getting into fitness, but I almost died from anorexia growing up. So between the ages of 10 and about 18, I struggled with that, and I was in the hospital a lot of health repercussions. Yeah, a lot of crazy stuff. So I was about 80 pounds my sophomore, I believe, sophomore junior year. Yeah. So the doctors and therapists told my parents I was going to die, essentially. And so I don't know, one day I just made a decision that I didn't want to die. I think, I kind of remember it. And it was a few years struggle, obviously, mentally to get through that mental part. And then that's not even mentioning the severe damage to my body, my metabolism, um, my strength. I mean, I was fainting every day of my life. So it was a pretty long journey just to get back to a healthy enough weight to stand on my own all day, which was kind of a crazy thought now, right? But so getting into the actual fitness part, once I was stable enough, I just wanted to study about how to properly feed my body and how to work out. I never worked out. I didn't really have good role models in that way. My mom never worked out. My mom didn't really eat healthy, So I just decided to teach myself, and the I had my first child at 21. So I had taken a few years to try to, my body recover and all that stuff. And I didn't know if it's a boy or girl until I gave birth, and lo and behold, it's a girl. So I was shocked. I really thought the whole time I was going to have a boy, but I don't know. Something within me clicked and was just like, I've got to be this little girl's role model. Like I've got to set a good example and not let her go through what I went through. So literally the day she was born, literally the moment they told me I had a girl, I was like, okay, I got to get my together. So that's kind of where it started. Fully started the actual fitness part of it. So as soon as we got home, as soon as she was 6 weeks old and could go to the gym, daycare, I got my first like workout shoes, my workout outfit, and so I started. I started my journey, and slow going, but I did it, and yeah. So that's kind of where it begins, and then I just over time loved it so much, and I actually had 3 kids in between. Starting to compete, and I actually competed pregnant, and I didn't know I was 3 months pregnant. So, yeah, it was die hard. But yeah, so that's where it started. And did my first actual competition, I believe, in 2001 when figure was first ever a thing. Now I'm in women's physique, but yeah, so that's where it started. I did that for a few years. Um, my ex husband hated it, wanted me to stop. He couldn't stand it. So I did. I took a break, then I went through divorce, and so I essentially took 7 years off in between that, and actually got into mainstream modeling, uh, like runway, print, fashion, stuff like that. And they wanted me small, and I wasn't big before because the figure girls back then weren't really that big anyway. Uh, but I did that for a while, and I was like, nah, this ain't it. Like this isn't what I want to do. So 2011, I believe it was, I got back on stage, got my foot wet again, in bikini, and then I went from bikini to women's physique pro in like 3 years. So that was it. That was the story. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, before I come, I gotta ask first of all. So when you're 3 months pregnant and competing, did you realize anything like with your stomach maybe getting just a little bit bigger? You just
I knew that I had water retention issues, estrogen water retention. I could tell that there was water somewhere. Still got top five though, so that's fine.
that's true. That's that's true. That's true. Yeah, I
Yeah.
get. Yeah, but and that's just so awesome. And yeah, we've had at least a dozen, anorexia survivors on the podcast, and that just makes it even more special. Just knowing that, I mean, you can, and for anyone out there who's suffering, I mean, you can make that change. And I'll leave links to other podcasts that I've had too, where I mean, it's one of those things where I just feel so bad for people suffering through that. And there is a way, and just reach out to people if you want to, and it is possible to get better. But when you were getting started in the gym, I mean, I always love to ask, because I always find it fascinating that if you were to walk into a gym with about 100 people, there's 100 different ways as to how those people got into shape, whether it comes down to, I mean, their diet, their nutrition, how many reps they did, what exercises they do. I mean, so many little things add up to the overall package that people end up with. What was that like for you, figuring out what worked best for you? Because I always say, if you're to walk up to someone and say, hey, what'd you train for this body part? It looks amazing. What works best for them 99% of the time isn't going to work as good for you.
Right, and of course your body becomes adapted as well, and so then you've always got to switch it. But I didn't have a coach. I didn't have a trainer. I taught myself trial and error for years. Uh, asked the other meatheads in the gym that didn't know what they were doing. So I did things wrong for a long time. So, um, yeah, so it was a lot of trial and error. But for me, the gaining, the probably the most significant changes that I went through from bikini to women's physique in 2.5 years ish, 3 years. Um, I did. I did lift heavy. I lifted really, really heavy. I stayed within 10 to 12 reps, 4 to 5 sets, pretty much everything. I loved me some leg day. So I'm not gonna lie, I was crazy when it came to legs.
You're one of those crazy people?
Yeah, yeah, but it kind of backfired on me a little bit. That's how I got out of bikini because I loved it so much that my legs just blew up, but my upper body wasn't in proportion. I just like training them, so I just did it. But I had to balance that out a little bit, a lot.
Well, you lead me perfectly into the next question, because I always say everyone's genetics are differently. So whenever someone gets started, they always have that one muscle group that really, really takes off, that they don't have to train as much. And they always have that one group that, I mean, just lags behind so badly that they basically just have to train to overdrive to get it to catch up to everything. I mean,
Right.
for me, it was my back, just because I had jobs all throughout college of lifting and loading, trucks and working in warehouses. But I'm also 6'3", so my lower body is just shot, where I mean, I I would have to train it, basically every day. I always said, I like, for my calves, especially, I could inject pure muscle into my calves and they wouldn't gain an ounce. I mean, it's a never ending process. But what were those body parts for you when you were getting started?
Oh, my legs grew very quickly, very, very quickly, and I was very, very strong, very strong. I think I was doubling my body weight when I was like 115. Uh, I It was crazy, but my biceps, my arms, bis and triceps, they just didn't really want to budge much. My back could grow very, very quickly. My legs grew very, very quickly. Shoulders were decent. Bis and triceps just not. And I still struggle.
She says, as our arms are basically taking up the screen that we're watching. No, I always find that funny whenever I bodybuilders on here and they're talking about, oh yeah, they don't really take off, and I was like, they don't really take off for a bodybuilder. For a normal person, though, you're still in the top 1 percentile. But no, yeah, and I love to ask that question though, because everyone's body parts are different, and the variety of answers that we get, I mean, it is different every single guest that I have on. And I love to ask that question just to sort of prove to people that, you know, just try to be the best version of yourself, because in this day and age, everyone always says, oh, I want her arms, or oh, I want his abs or something, but they don't realize that, just be the best version of yourself.
As a coach, I hear that often, and have to give them reality. You're not going to look like that person. You're not genetically disposed that way. You're not genetically made up to even look remotely like this. So I have to ingrain in their head, one, a lot of psychological changes, the way they think. I have to reverse a lot of that. There's a lot of psychology in being a decent trainer, especially for bodybuilding.
I always said you might as well get your psychology degree if you're going to be a personal trainer, because I mean,
Yeah.
you're basically a therapist too, along with a coach, basically, for them. So, and I always find that so fascinating. And when it comes down to the nutritional part of the training, because so many people don't realize, the saying is always true. Abs are made in the kitchen. A lot of people are always saying, 80% nutrition, 20% working out. What would you say is probably the biggest nutritional change you made when you really started to take things seriously in bodybuilding?
I wasn't eating enough. I was far under eating. Yeah. And yeah, when people are around me, like around me for a substantial amount of time and they see how much I eat, they're usually blown away. Now, so I'm not season. Well, even I suppose for even contest prep, compared to a lot, I still eat substantially more. But I just have to do that.
Yeah, again, and it goes perfectly with the myth that I love to bring up too, where I mean it's gotten better the last 5 years due to Instagram, but there are still so many women that believe that if they go to the gym and they touch one weight, they're gonna put on, 50 pounds of muscle. And part of that myth too, I think, is that they don't realize that, not only is that never going to happen. Well, first of all, if it does, give me a call because I'm more than happy to talk to you. But also,
I know. Let's market it. Let's
oh,
market it right
absolutely.
now.
That I always said that person would be like the first ever trillionaire on the planet. But the only negative thing is that I bet like the government would probably like try to come and kidnap them and like try to steal their genetics and like give it to like the it would be a big hassle. But no, I always say too, a big thing with that is that they don't realize that you have to eat to put on weight and to put on muscle. You can't just go to a gym and just start lifting weights and then not eat as much. It's not going to work like that. But did you ever have that fear when you were getting started working out? And even if you didn't, I mean, I can guarantee that you still hear this all the time. How do you like to respond to that whenever someone comes up to you and says that?
Well, I mean, oddly, I'm sure you're not surprised that it does. Oh, being a bodybuilding coach and trainer, people see. I'm sorry, my phone was about to die, and I didn't realize. Okay, I apologize. I was like, oh, okay, okay, great. So yeah, it happens often in where I live in my small, I say small community, but I'm one of the most well known top bodybuilding choices for coaches because there's like three of us here. And I'm the only IFBB pro, as far as that's concerned, as far as coaches. Oddly enough, these sometimes women out of all the trainers, and I'm not the cheapest, okay, they choose me that they want to sit across from me and tell me how. Well, I don't want to look like you. Like I don't want to. I don't want to. I don't want to look like a man. Like they're looking at me saying this stuff. Well, first of all, okay, that's not going to happen. Second of all, I don't look like a man.
Not at all.
Third,
If
yeah,
if
so I
if and if you do, then I want to know what kind of guys they're hanging out with.
yeah, exactly. I feel bad for your man right now because I already know he's a mess. But yeah, it happens a lot. The misconceptions are real, or like I just, I just don't want to be bulky. That's their favorite. I just don't want to get bulky. Like I don't want to lift. So why did you come to a bodybuilding coach if you don't want to lift? Did you think I was going to have you do cardio? So it happens a lot, more than I care to even discuss because it's always amusing to me. But usually I sit down and I just say, listen, first of all, you're not going to look like this. You're just not. It's not going to happen unless you want to make this your entire being. Unless you want to wake up from the time you open your eyes till the time you go to bed, you want to obsess about your food. You want to obsess about your supplements. You want to obsess about your water intake, your food. You're just not. It's not going to happen. And then I let them know I'm 185 pounds. You are 120. Okay. And this is really more so geared toward the I'm so scared of carbs. Oh my gosh. I eat carbs all day long. Love them. I don't skimp on them. I need them. But I kind of just have to just retrain the way they were taught that one, I don't look 185 pounds and you don't look only 115 or 20. And that's the difference in the way we do our daily activities, the way we do whatever we do in the gym, and the way we eat. Typically, these women have skinny people fat. They don't eat enough and they want to be cardio bunnies. I don't look 185 because I'm more dense. I eat a lot and I don't do a lot of cardio. So I explain. picture wise. If this client does this and this and this. This client is 130 pounds, right? So I give them visuals. I let them know how much I weigh and what I eat to look like this. So, usually by the end of it, they're just like dumbfounded. Just like they don't even know how to respond because they're in shock.
That's one of the best things about being 6'3" is that that I weigh 215 pounds and you could not be able to tell because again, yeah, muscle weighs more than fat too. So I mean, so many people don't realize that, a lot of these bodybuilders, they are significantly heavier, but it's the healthy way. But yeah, I mean, I always say bulking and tone are two words that need to be erased from the English dictionary because I mean, first of all, when you say you want to be more toned, you want more muscle. That's basically what you're saying. It's a different way of saying it. And then like getting too bulky is just saying you don't want to put on muscle. But I mean, yeah, the myth. I mean, unfortunately, it's still around, but I think it has gotten a little bit better. But yeah, I just wish that just you could just take every person that has that fear and just put them in the gym just for a day and just say, just go through that with, I mean, because it is all the personal trainers that we have on, I mean, it's a struggle for every single one of them.
Well, yeah, I explained to obviously just in trying to make their metabolism work efficiently for themselves. Like, so it'll, you know, work on its own well. Like, you've got to feed it. You've got to be active and you've got to feed that metabolism. If you don't feed it, it's actually going to go backward. And so I think that's probably the top thing that I have to instill. I think it's the verbiage that you use so they're not scared. When you're talking about metabolism, that's not scary. That's great, right? So I explained that the more I this is what I say to every client that sits down with me for the first time. I say, imagine your body and a complete clone of your body, the exact clone. This body being you, this body having 15 to 20 pounds more lean mass. This body is going to burn more calories just by breathing and existing. This one. But this one looks better, is more tighter, less body fat, doing nothing different except for exercise and eating more. And it's like they're just they don't know how to respond or react to that. But that can't get more real. They want to hear words like metabolism. They want to hear things like, things that they know.
Yeah, and that's a great way to approach. I've never heard someone really say that to someone before, and I think that's one of the best ways that you can really say it to them because yeah, I mean, it's hard enough for so many people to get in the gym, but if you can just make it as easy as possible for them, I can guarantee that it'll work out so much better. But when you were getting into bodybuilding, I mean, I always say this by far was the most shocking thing for me. I would have never guessed it in a million years, but for so many of these athletes, the hardest thing for them is posing. I mean, it's harder than the working out. It's harder than nutrition for the vast majority of guests that I have on. And I like to compare it now to being a perfect driver where you can be a great driver. You can never be a perfect driver. You can be a great poser. You can never be a perfect poser. It's always ever evolving. What has your experience with posing been like?
Well, posing happens to be my strong suit. I've been hired for guest posing a lot. And I have an incredible coach who's mentored me for 12 years. He's actually a really great friend of mine, but we choreograph together too. So we've created some really fire routines. But I think posing is one of the most important things to bring to a stage. Period. You can have the best package up there, but if you can't translate it well, if you can't be in positions that show that best side to the judges, they're judging just what they see. And if you're not showing the best version, you can lose when you maybe should have won. So posing to me is extremely important. I teach two to three posing classes per week, one-on-one posings. I do choreograph routines, send them out, and I love it. I'm passionate about it. For me, it's art. It's my artistic outlet. Um, and while I don't like to say there's any wrong way to pose, there are wrong ways to pose, but in women's physique, bodybuilding, men's classic physique, and even bikini. Really, figure's the only one that you really don't have freedom to express yourself a lot. But there is freedom in that, and if you can step outside of your comfort zone and have fun with it and show your personality, it's always better. Always better.
What would you say was probably the biggest difficulty? Because I mean, you went from bikini to figure to physique. I mean, you went all the way up the ladder. What would you say was probably the biggest challenge for you posing wise each time you moved up?
Um, Just to be honest, like, again, my biceps and triceps were always my trouble area. My legs were killer. My back was pretty nice, but my arms just weren't developed. So finding a front double bicep that would, because my lats were wide, shoulders were decent, but arms were small. So just trying to find a good place for them and accentuate them as much as I could with the big quads that I had, so facing the front, and my side tricep. Now, I did come up with a really fire side tricep that really did not accentuate my arms that much, but the entire position was kind of new. They hadn't seen it, so it was a different one. It was at the time supposedly illegal in the ICB, but I made it work, and I got top five in my pro debut. Using it because I did not have well developed buys and tries. So I had to work with everything else that I had to showcase. Yeah.
So she's basically the Bill Belichick of bodybuilding, where I mean, she finds ways in the rule book to sort of tinker it a little bit and get away with. No, no, I'm just kidding. But yeah, and
No,
that
I did have girls approach me backstage mad that I got first call. They're like, well, that was illegal anyway. I don't even know. I'm like, hi, who are you? It's so good to meet you. Either way, I made top five, so I apologize.
just be like, and why didn't you do it then? If you knew that it was, yeah,
Well,
it's. I mean,
well, a funny story. One of those girls that I beat that show, the very next she did a show the next weekend. Guess what pose she stole that pose? I don't want to say stole because it's free, right? If you see somebody do it and you like it, you do it. So, but she used the pose that she kind of condemned me for, and she got second place. She had a great physique, and actually we're friends to this day. Actually now, but yeah.
and out of your physique poses, what is your favorite pose to do, and what is your least favorite pose to do?
Oh man, my favorite. I can kill the ab thigh without effort. And yeah, I think that would probably be my strongest. And then my least favorite. Oh, I don't really have a least favorite to be honest with you. I love it all.
I gotta say, you are the first guest. Okay, so we've had over 200 bodybuilders on this podcast. You're going to be like our guest, like 310th. You are the first guest that has said that abs and thighs is their favorite pose to do. We have never heard that from anyone, and I've been waiting for someone to say it. So finally, everyone, it took us about a year and a half, but we finally got someone that said, "Hey, the ab and thigh." Because I mean, so many of the guests that we have on just say, "Oh, it just feels like such an awkward pose to do, and it just doesn't feel natural." But some people can really pull it off, and I mean, that just
My posing coach had me completely pretty much straight up and down with very, very little effort. So I look very statuesque, and it's very little effort for me. So it's easy for me, but I do have very well developed abs, and then it does really well in my shape.
for anyone being curious, I'll have a photo of her abs pop up, and you'll be like, "Yep, yep, she's telling the truth. Yep, she's not lying, everyone." So yeah, and I mean, and that's just so amazing. But a question that I love to ask too, because as you can tell, I'm one of the palest people you'll ever meet in your entire life. Just my thick Norwegian skin, being in the upper Midwest, where I mean, if I go outside, I'm gonna either get burnt to an absolute crisp, or I'm just gonna get a little farmer's tan. Where let's be honest, that is not a real tan.
Right.
Bodybuilders get tan. And like I said, I've never been tan a day in my life, and I've always wanted to just maybe just for one day just get tan. But what is that experience like for you when you get that tan on? Because we hear so many stories about how you see muscles that you never even knew that you had. Everything really seems to pop out. What is that feeling like for you when you finally get that tan on?
It's, well, when I'm getting close to contests, I mean, I get the tans even when I guest post and stuff like that, maybe even off season. But there is a difference. I think when it all comes together, when you do step in there, like that's real now. Like this is, yeah, you've done all of the water and all of that peak week stuff if you do peak week. But but then when it's covered in the dark skin, it's like, okay, it's real now. Okay, what do I really look like? You can see everything a lot more clearly, and it gets exciting. Yeah, it's real at that moment.
Well, it's the moment of truth for so many people, because for so many people, especially the women that we have on, it really does take till like the last day that like really everything really pops in and you really see everything, where you really, I mean, it's a guessing game, and it really also, I mean, people peak at different times. I mean, when people don't realize that you peak at a certain time. Some people could peak a day before the show or a day after the show. They might not look their best during the show, and it's just trying to figure that out. But when it also comes to, I mean, putting that tan on, the one negative thing though is, I mean, you can't really sit on anything, you can't lean against anything. You basically have to become a human statue. That's another thing where I'm just adding on to the checklist of things that these competitors have to go through in order to compete. But how great of a feeling was it when you finally went to physique, when you realized I don't have to wear those high heels anymore?
Well, um, you saw my Instagram. I am actually an extremely more feminine, very much a heels and dresses woman. If I'm not in gym clothes, so the heels for me, I loved. Yeah, I didn't never had a problem with it, and so when I got out of them, it felt strange to me.
That's why I asked that question the way I did, everyone, because I knew that 99% of our guests are like, oh, I couldn't wait. Like when I finally got all those, but I was like, I know I could see some from some of her Instagram posts. I was like, yeah, she actually likes those heels because so many people, I mean, if, yeah, some of the guests that we have on might not be as girly girl as some of the other guests. So like they literally have to like wear them while they're like vacuuming or like literally cooking or prepping their meals because that's literally the only time that they can get. But yeah, just that experience with them. I mean, because that's one of the biggest complaints that we get from people who might have a problem with bodybuilding. But this is a question that I ask every single guest that I have on, whether they be like my up and coming bands or my health and fitness guests. For my bands, I always ask, what is that feeling like when you get to walk up on stage and perform live in front of hundreds to thousands of people? That also applies to the bodybuilders that I have on the show. What is that feeling like when you get to walk up on that stage and show off all that hard work that you've worked months upon months, if not years on?
Well, when I'm going in 100% confident, which is usually, uh, it's the best feeling in the world. It's like basically taking the drape off of your canvas, at an art show, and because the posing and the routines are my strong suit. That's what I love. I'm passionate about that. So getting to showcase my actual own personality and taste in music and my own movements and making it more artistic versus just a sport of a body and a physique being judged. It's great for me. That makes me like kind of like that. The routine usually comes last, so for me, it's like this is the finale. You know what I mean? And so yeah, it's definitely my favorite part.
When you're on stage, does time seem to fly by, or does it seem to slow down, or is it sort of a mixture?
I don't get nervous. That doesn't usually happen to me. Um, I don't know. I don't think that I guess when you, in retrospect, when you look back, it's like, man, that went fast. But when I'm on stage, it just seems like real time, and everything just is very clear to me. So it doesn't seem like it's rushed.
Well, I
But
always feel like another thing that really just adds to that dedication that this lifestyle and this sport, you have to have is that, I mean, you're going to be training for months upon months to get that look, but you're only on stage sometimes for even less than a minute for some of the guests that we have on. Meanwhile, the bands that I have on, I mean, they're on stage for 2 hours, and it's it just shows even more about the attitude that you have to compete in this sport, because you're doing it for such a small amount of time, and it really is make or break in such a minuscule amount of time. But for all the guests that I have on that have won their pro card, I always got to ask, what was that feeling like when they announced your name and you realized, hey, I'm a pro now?
oh, I already knew that I was gonna be. I walked around like I was a pro for 3 months. I already knew.
What was it
To
like
be
then when you
honest
were?
with
What
you,
was it like then when you were finally validated of
it
your
was
feeling that you were going to
it
be a
was
pro?
the very first time in my competition history. Uh, Yeah, up until that point, I knew. It was no question. And I'm a spiritual person, so I mean, this kind of goes a little bit deeper than probably that maybe you want to get into, but
Oh, I
I'm
don't.
an
Yeah, no, I'm a spiritual person. Yeah, you can talk about.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I literally 3 months before turning pro, uh, literally, I heard the Lord say, "It was your time. It's your time." So I already knew from that moment. I was a little freaked out. I'm not gonna lie. I
Why
was
is
so very
God so
freaked out.
interested in my bodybuilding career? That's what she
Uh,
said.
well, well, that's a good question. It's not. It was never about me. It's never
Oh
about
yeah,
me.
no, yeah.
It's for me, what I realized through the journey, it started off teaching my body how to function properly, how to be healthy mentally and body, but through the whole thing, and then I was like, I really like this. I feel good about myself. I'm confident. Well, that's the next step. Well, that's great, but there's more to it. Guess what? I change other people's lives. I understand now that other people are inspired by the fact that I was a single mom with 3 kids, got her pro card alone. That I overcame near death multiple times. And then beyond that, mentoring and talking to young girls with body dysmorphia and women who are not confident within themselves. And it's really not about the trophy, and it's really not about a title. That's just the platform that God has given me to use to help other people and to reach other people. The gift was not about my body. It was, but that's not what it's about. That was just a vessel.
Being that you've gone from, I mean, the one extreme of anorexia and then the other extreme of bodybuilding, what has that been like mentally to just change and just see your body really just go from one extreme to the other?
Well, I'm 100% about self growth in every aspect of the word. And people who knew me then, if I happen to run into somebody, they don't even believe it's me. I mean, there's like, you look like somebody I knew in high school, but even when I was married, I was still pretty small, for figure or whatever, 115, maybe 120 tops, and people who recognized me, and I don't just mean the body. I've had to come a long way mentally uh, from where I was when I was married. I was very much suppressed,
Well, I always say the mental journey is vastly outweighs the physical journey, but you aren't able to see that just by looking at someone.
absolutely, yeah. So I went from being a yes sir kind of girl, housewife, not allowed to work, living in the country, um, to what I'm doing now. And a lot of people that even knew me from being married at 23, 24, 25, whatever, they they just don't even recognize me, and it's not my body necessarily as much as just I'm such a mentally strong person now, and I'm such a more of a leadership type person now that I'm not, kind of behind a husband who was made all the calls, and there's nothing wrong with that, mind you. I'm not dissing it. I'm just saying that I've had to grow a lot as a person to even get here. So usually when people don't recognize me, it's more so my just my aura, very strong.
Well, and when we were talking about, the myth of, you're gonna just put on muscle automatically, I always say the one thing that I find impacts women so much more positively than guys is just that confidence boost that you get. Because like your story, we've heard so many stories as well where, women have been able to make life-changing decisions or just really help them with their confidence. And that, I mean, is the one thing that I would always tell someone if they're always, if they always have that question for me. But now we go to a fun question. What is your go-to post-show meal?
Oh my gosh, I'm a Gemini. I don't like the same thing all the time. I have to be in a mood at that moment. And I may crave something for the last few months, you know what I mean, and I save it. So it's never the same. I do love my pancakes with peanut butter a lot, and so sometimes it's just Mexican food, which I try not to do right after show just because of the extra salt. It just makes your routine so much. What else have I craved? Sometimes I just wanted a glass of champagne and cheesecake. Weird, I don't know that happened. But yeah, I love my pancakes. Sometimes just a burger.
I always said if I ever competed, I would rent out a Five Guys with like, here's $1,000. I'm gonna, you're gonna feed me until I either pass out or throw up. But either way, I'm getting my money's worth. But she's a Gemini, I'm a Cancer, everyone. So the fact that I haven't cried once during this entire podcast, it's a big plus here. So, but yeah, and just with that post show, there's so many different varieties in that answer. But two of the questions that I love to ask every single health and fitness guest that I have on, and for the first one, I mean, I always found, there were so many positive things that happened when I started, getting in shape and working out and getting bigger and stronger. But the one negative thing is that you're going to get asked to move a lot of people's furniture. You're going to get asked to open a lot of bottled water or anything that's sealed on tight. You're basically just the go-to strength person. I'm still at home with my parents for the next 2 months before I move out. And every single time that they come home with groceries, I basically have to lift the car into the driveway and carry in the groceries myself. Has that been a similar experience with you where people just take one look at you and they just assume that you can do favors for them?
Yeah, I mean a little bit. I think yeah, but more so, I think just coming from a female, because I think a lot of men aren't going to be like, "Hey, will you help me move this weekend?" But a lot of times I'll be asked. I'll be the only woman in the gym, but plenty of men. Hey, will you spot me? You look like the only person here that knows what you're doing. Stuff like that. Stuff like that. More than asking me to move.
I would honestly take that as like the biggest compliment of all time. If I was a female and I was in the gym and a guy comes up to me and says, "Hey, you want to spot me?" I'd be like, "Dude, you just made my day," basically.
Yeah, I'm just used to it now. I don't know. But yeah, that's probably the biggest thing I get, or it's like, "Hey, do you think that you could show me how to do this right? I don't know if I'm doing it right." And there could be 50 men in there. I'm the only woman, but I do keep it take it as a compliment. And if somebody asks me for help, they legit, you know, feel like I'm the person that could probably lead them in the right direction. That I take that as a compliment, and I always try to take time for people who are legitimately curious and making sure they're doing things right. Oh yeah, I definitely help.
Well, and that's awesome because I mean, just to have that where I mean, you're able to see that people look up to you, and that's just a great thing. But I always say it's a double edged sword for me being 6'3", where I could be I could have zero muscle at all, and they'd still be like, oh yeah, tall guy, come and help us. So literally, every other weekend during the summer, just asking people to move. And but a question that I always find so fascinating is, I mean, you're not the average looking female. I mean, if you walk out, even dressed like you are right now, you are going to get stares. I always say you sort of become like a mini celebrity, where I mean, people just get so fascinated. How has that been like adjusting to that? And has it gotten easier for you to just accept that as your career has gone on?
Yeah, I mean, I'm used to it now. And my kids are used to it, having to take pictures for random people, my friends. Yeah, it's definitely been an adjustment to say the least. I mean, I've been in dangerous situations. I've had to learn how to do safety precautions, cameras in my home. I've been followed before. I've been a man in my home one time. Yeah, it's police reports. So there are negative things that comes with this. There are people that are obsessive for females with muscle, and I think I've learned to navigate through it and around it and not respond to certain things. But yeah, as far as being in the community and like going out and it's one thing to be a muscular woman. It's another thing to be an overly I don't know if there is an overly, but a pretty feminine female. Dresses, heels, hair, makeup, everything is nails done. And so I think I've been in situations which is odd, and I've learned from a male perspective, sometimes they've actually just come out and say things, with alcohol or whatever. And I'm learning like, wow, that's an interesting thing. Like I've been in situations where I think men were staring at me, but they felt like they weren't supposed to be because I was so muscular and so lean. But then there, I was not necessarily ugly or their stereotypical bodybuilder with veins everywhere in the magazines. You know what I mean? So I think that mine was
Their
a
brain
little
is a little
confused.
confused. They're like,
Yeah,
how am I supposed to feel about this? Like, yeah.
yes, and I say that because I've actually been told that. Like I feel like I'm not even supposed to think you're attractive, but I'm so confused right now because you are. But I really feel like if I say this out loud, which I am, you're going to beat me up, and I don't know
Have
what.
any heads exploded just trying to fix the conundrum, basically?
Yeah, so I think there's a lot of confusion just because there's a lot of misconceptions and stereotypes as to female bodybuilding, what we're supposed to be and what we're supposed to look like. So yeah, I do deal with a lot of very odd pickup lines, like, so how much you bench press?
That's a great pickup line, everyone. All the guys that are listening to this, yeah, definitely go and use that the next time you're at a bar and you see anyone. Just ask them. But no, I gotta say, so the first time before I had like the first female bodybuilder on, I just did a little research, just Wikipedia, just to see, get some background tips. I found out about like the people that are obsessed with women with muscle. I closed my laptop and I wanted to burn it afterwards. I wanted to get that out of my head, just like seeing. But yeah, it's for everyone
It's
else. I
all
mean,
day. It's all day. And I have 9 or 10 social media platforms and outlets, and they're all full of just random, ridiculous, just outrageous, very obsessive men. And yeah, I don't know. When I first really started getting bigger, the worse it got. I realized the bigger end of the spectrum in the bodybuilding world, as far as size wise, the worse, the more obsessive men were. Now, when I was more doing figure on the smaller end, it wasn't as bad. My audience was a little different. So yeah, the bigger I get, the more unusual it gets.
yeah. No,
Yeah.
it's yeah, that's one of those things where I learned that and I was like, okay, God bless these competitors even more than that they have to put up with that, because I can guarantee you, I mean, the guys might have to deal with a little bit of it, but not even close to the amount that it happens with female bodybuilding. It's probably like 1% of what, and it's just it just again, to be able to go through that and still have this drive and still live this lifestyle. I mean, it just takes a lot of courage, and I mean, it's just so awesome that you're able to do that. But now
Well, it's between that and the negative comments, the people say, but oh, men like women with curves and they don't like women that look like men. It's like everybody has something to say about it. But yeah, I those things don't really. If you understand psychology and you understand where it comes from and why, it's never about me or what I'm doing or they don't care about what we're doing. They care about what we're doing and how we live our lives as a reflection of what they feel like maybe they should probably be doing, but they don't. So they really would rather deflect it onto us. So when you understand psychology, it's like you just look at the people like, oh, you poor thing.
As someone who's taken a couple psychology classes in college, this is ringing a bell with me. So yeah, it's never really about you. It's always sort of their own insecurity. But my fit, yeah, my
Yeah,
favorite,
you got to be strong as a
yeah,
woman in this industry. You have to be very thick-skinned.
hmm
And I mean, it's affected relationships as far as like I've been single most of the time just because a lot of men don't want to deal with it. Well, it's part of the reasons I was, focused, but the few times that I was kind of dabbling in relationships, they were like overwhelmed. Like we couldn't sit down in a restaurant without somebody coming up and like, hey, so like, what do you do to look like that? What do you eat? And this poor guy is sitting across from me, like, you
if I were the
know,
guy, I'd be like, oh, I just eat my Wheaties and my vegetables, and yeah, thanks for asking. You have a nice day now. But no, yeah.
I think it takes a very special, very like secure man to deal with that too. Because they're along for the ride. They have to deal with it. They have to, if I'm feeling a certain way about some of the inboxes or comments in person, like they don't like that either. You know what I mean? It affects them. So yeah, it's just
I would have so much opportunity to work on like becoming a comedian if I dated a female bodybuilder, just because I could come up with like the best responses for like everything, like if they were talking about. So yeah, but yeah, it's this journey. I mean, like we were talking about before we started recording, it is not just working out and posing on stage. So much more goes into this lifestyle and how it affects you. And I love that we're talking about that. But my favorite question to ask, because I always say for fit guys, clothing options can be limited, but for fit women, I mean, your clothing options are extremely limited. Where I always say, if you have big broad shoulders, dresses aren't your best friend. Jeans are another thing that we hear of all the time, where I mean, if you have a big lower body and a small waist, good luck with jeans. What have been some ways that you found that you're able to compensate for the fact that your clothing options can be very limited, and for the fact that you basically have to have two wardrobes, your prep wardrobe and your off-season wardrobe?
yeah. So it's funny that you should mention that because I just went through a crazy. So I was invited to the Marine Corps ball in North Carolina at literally last week, a week ago Thursday, um, and I think he gave me like 5 days notice, 6 days maybe. So ball gown, ball gown, formal gown. Okay. So yeah, I spent 3 days searching my little town because I don't have time to order anything. I don't have time to get something specially altered or so for me. And again, I mean, my closet's crazy. I am a fashion person anyway. So I found that jeans are a no go. Sometimes during prep or in my smaller times, I can make it work if they're stretchy. Jeans are a no. I wear dresses, only dresses that are stretchy, period. They're cotton and they're stretchy. Sometimes in the plus size section, if you can believe that. If I'm, in my 190s. But yeah, everything has to stretch, period. That's it. Anything that has a zipper up the back, you can bet that's not going to happen unless I'm close to prep. And then sometimes I can. But yeah, I mean, the struggle is very real, especially for somebody like me who's very much into fashion, very much into, the artistic design and nice, beautiful fabrics. And yeah, it's a struggle. That's the one thing for me that has been the hardest is having to compromise the fashion.
And I always say, for anyone out there who's coming up with like their own clothing line or something like that, include that, because out of all the guests that I've had, you're going to become a millionaire just from getting business from them, because every single guest is looking for that. So if anyone out there is thinking about it, and I did have two fashion guys that design clothes on the podcast, but they haven't got it started yet. It's been almost a year since I talked to them, so I definitely got to get them on that. But if someone were to walk up to you and say, Angel, we made the decision, you can change one thing about the sport of bodybuilding, and everyone would go along with it, what would be the one thing that you would like to see changed?
Um, this is a very touchy subject, and I might get in trouble. But the reality is, I'm retiring from stage after this year. I've been doing this over 20 years. So for me, the IFBB and how it's run, we as athletes don't make money. We pay to make them money. We pay for our own sport. We put thousands and thousands of dollars into our body. Sometimes put it at risk with the things that some do, and just to pay for our own flight, our own airfare, our own tan, our own pro card every year. We have to pay to get that pro card every year to get it renewed, just so we can fly out for a couple minutes on stage. If we make the top five, then we can pose or whatever top 10. And even if I was to outright win a pro show, I wouldn't get enough from that check to even cover the flight and hotel for the time I was there. So for me, it doesn't make sense business wise. It made sense at first to get my platform out there, to get a following, to do it. But I'm also an entrepreneur, so I do other things. And so you're not going to make money in the sport. You're just not. If you think you're going, that there's some pot at the end of the rainbow, because you're a professional athlete now. There's not. There's no pot at the end of the rainbow.
You basically have to win the Olympia like every year in order to make, and you would make a minuscule amount of money still. You would barely make any. But yeah, that's the biggest thing when I talk about all the things on like the checklist of what these athletes have to go through, is the fact that they lose money. Basically 95% of the people that compete lose money, and the ones that make money don't make, nearly anything that what anyone would ever think that they would make. So yeah, that just to me is just the most awesome thing about it. Not awesome, but I should say the most inspiring thing is that they still do it after all that, and it just again, it's a lifestyle change, but it's just it's such a great thing to see that people are so dedicated and they're willing to do stuff like that in order to just reach their goals. But so this is going to be your last year competing. So if we were to talk to you a year from today, where would you like to be at in, just your overall life? What are some goals that you would like to have achieved if we were to talk a year from today?
So a year from today, well, so before I got back into bodybuilding bikini, I was with a modeling agency, and I've got a lot of people that want to work with me, but the bigger body is not marketable. It's just not marketable. You'll never see a women's physique athlete in the center of any magazine. We will not ever, probably ever be sponsored by any major nutrition company. We're just not marketable. People don't want to see us. They can't relate to us, so we're not marketable. So my plan is to, and you're the first person to know this, besides my few very immediate friends and family. I'm going back down size wise and more mainstream fitness modeling, and I've got a casting director, and we're going to be doing some more mainstream things. I'm still going to be very fit. I'm still going to probably have more muscle than the average person, but I'm not going to be 180, 190. So yeah, I'm excited, and hopefully, you know, make more money doing more mainstream stuff, which I love too. As long as I can have a fit physique and talk about my experiences and help people out and whatever, still I'm good.
It doesn't, yeah, it doesn't matter what you look like as long as you're happy on the inside. I mean, that's a message that, I mean, I could say every podcast, I will. But before we wrap things up, is there anyone that you'd like to give a shout out to?
Oh my goodness, everybody that's ever had their hand in helping me be who I am. My great friends and mentors, people that have worked with me, teaching me how to basically be who I am. Like, my posing coach, who's one of my dear friends, one of the first people I met in the industry, Andre Scott, um, great mentor. Noel Fuller's one of my business partners, one of my first coaches ever. My other business partner, coach that works for me, Dakota. My other coach that works for me under my team, Dane. They're like my little family. Um, and my go-to people. My current coach and friend for, I don't know, 6, 7 years, Brandon Ray. I've learned so much from him. He teaches me all the time. He's like a genius. So yeah, I mean, those are probably the most important people, and definitely my 3 kids who have just inspired me, like, just to keep being better all the time, and I used to watch how proud they would get when I would do a show when they were younger, and when I got my pro card, like, I had tears in my, and I'm not an emotional person. I'm just really just not an overly emotional person, but when the first call I got was right when I got off stage was for my kids. They watched the live stream, and I think I would have given the pro card back just for that moment, for my kids. It's like, "Mommy, I'm so proud of you. I knew you could do this." And they wrote all of this nice stuff on their social media about how amazing their mom was. And so I think my kids were probably my biggest inspiration, and just wanting to be better all the time for them, so they would have a good role model.
And that's another great positive thing that you can get from this lifestyle too, is, I mean, so many people then look up to you and just realize that anything's possible, especially coming from your background too. I mean, it's even more inspiring for people. So I highly recommend everyone go and check her out on her Instagram page, which I'll leave a link to down below. A warning though, you will get inspired to get off that couch and stop eating all those Twinkies and get in shape. You are gonna, I mean, your jaw's gonna drop a little bit too. But I always love to end the podcast this way with my health and fitness guest. If someone were to walk up to you and say, "Wow, you look amazing. I want to get in shape," but I find for so many people, just taking that first step in the gym is the hardest thing for them. And it's just like a lot of things in life. But I always say, once you take that first step in the gym, it's very hard to walk out of the gym without getting a workout in. What do you like to tell people, and what sort of motivation do you like to give them so that they are inspired to take that first step?
Well, the first thing I tell people when they say that to me, because a lot of people say that, but are they really ready? And you can't make somebody be ready. You can sit there and give them an hour of free training and advice. And if they're not ready, they're not ready. So the first thing I always tell people, and excuse my language, but this is real, I say, you got to get tired of your own shit. Period. You have to be tired of your own bullshit. And so when you're tired of your own bullshit, give me a call and I'll sit down with you, when you are done. And so that's the first thing I say, you got to get out of your own way. And then second, the thing is like you got to find your thing. Bodybuilding is not everybody's thing, and it should not be. It should not be everybody's thing, and lifting like this should, and obsessing with eating should not be everybody's thing. You have to balance. You have to balance it, and everything in moderation. You can live a healthy lifestyle and not punish yourself all the time for, oh, I ate this today and I shouldn't have done that. What happens is it's a circle. It's a terrible circle. So then you start feeling bad about the fact that you just ate this, and then you start beating yourself up mentally, and then you just say F it and you eat everything else in the kitchen just because you already messed up your diet. So when you just accept, okay, well, I ate that, I wasn't supposed to, moving on. It's a lifestyle. It's not a diet. It's not like, you just got to have everything in moderation, and everything has to balance. And the whatever workout, I don't care what workout you do. I don't care if you do CrossFit. I don't care if you do yoga. I mean, you got to do a little bit more than yoga, but as long as you're active and you love it and you're seeing results and you're pushing yourself, that's fine. Do it.
No. And I always said I have a perfect idea for like a Twilight Zone episode where it's just a world where everyone is into bodybuilding. That's just the whole thing. And then that's a great idea. I'm not copywriting that or anything. So if anyone takes advantage of that, but yeah, again, Angel, we cannot thank you enough for coming on the podcast and sharing your journey. I mean, it was so great talking to you. And again, we wish you nothing but the best and all of your ventures to come. And I can't wait to see what you're going to be doing within the next year, especially now that you're changing things up a little bit. And I wish you nothing but the best in that.
Thank you so much. Appreciate
Absolutely.
it.
Absolutely. Well, again, this is Ryan Johnson, DD on the spot, signing out. Have a great day, everyone.